We usually grow up inside ready-made patterns, study properly, get a stable job, become a respectable citizen. Then one day, in the middle of a completely ordinary day, you realize you're ticking every box and still feel empty inside, as if some part of you has been locked up, suffocating, wanting to scream. For Nietzsche, history is not written by obedient crowds, but by those who dare to create their own inner world and then force life to orbit around it. Inner genius is therefore not IQ, not medals, but the ability to build a bridge for your own life and the courage to walk across it. In this video, we'll go through 7 Nietzschean principles to reclaim the genius you've buried. From peeling off layers of the false self, facing the darkness in the unconscious, breaking free of herd morality, to cultivating the discipline of a craftsman and making sure you don't turn into a monster as you grow stronger. If you leave now, you'll go on living, and nothing will really change, and you'll most likely keep coming back to the same feeling. There's more to me than this. But if you stay until the end, you'll see. The qualities of genius have always been in you, waiting for you to wake them up. Number 1. Be yourself. Nietzsche has a very brutal line. Be yourself. All that you are now doing, thinking, desiring, all that is not you. It's essentially an accusation. He's saying, almost everything you call me today might just be the sum of family expectations and social norms. And if that's true, it's no surprise you feel mediocre and dull. Look straight at your life. How many decisions are truly yours? Did you choose your major because you genuinely love it? Or because you heard it's easy to get a job? Do you stay in your current job because it sets you on fire? Or because the salary is stable, my parents are at ease? Do you post something online because you really need to say it? Or because you guess it'll get more likes? Nietzsche calls this a life chained by fear and public opinion. Deep inside you is a kind of paralysis. Every move is calculated so no one will criticize you. In return, you lose yourself. You live safely, but meaninglessly. Nietzsche uses an image, the river of life. He says, no one can build the bridge you yourself are forced to cross. All others can give you are maps, compasses, and a bit of experience. But the final bridge, where you decide how you will live, what price you will pay, what you will give up, can only be built by one person. You. Genius begins at the exact moment you stop waiting for a ready-made bridge and accept, no one is coming to save me. Either I build it myself or I stand on this bank forever. Many people, when they first turn inward to question themselves, feel only a void. There's nothing I especially love. I'm not good at anything. In reality, it's not that you lack genius. It's that you don't yet know how to read its signals. Nietzsche doesn't ask you to believe in destiny. He simply says, look carefully at the moments in your life when you truly lit up. He suggests 3 angles of vision, like 3 drills going straight into the core of who you are. First, ask honestly, what have I truly loved up to now, not what I should love? Second, what has ever lit up my soul, made me feel more open, more connected, kinder to myself and to life? Finally, what has both ruled me and made me joyful is the obsession that even when I'm tired, I don't want to stop, that I don't abandon even when others mock it. When you answer truthfully, a red thread will slowly reveal itself. Some people look back and realize, from childhood on, they were always obsessed with taking things apart to see how they work, from toys, computers, to workflow in a company. What lifted their soul was the moment they understood a complex system and made it run smoothly. What both ruled and delighted them was the feeling of grasping the essence of chaos. Their genius might not be on a stage or in the arts, but in becoming the brain that codes, designs systems, optimizes operations, and does scientific research. Another person remembers, what they truly loved was not high grades, but those times sitting and listening while friends poured their hearts out. And somehow they always found exactly one sentence that helped the other person see themselves. What lifted their soul was the moment they watched someone move from despair toward calm and clarity. What both ruled and delighted them was the feeling of deep connection, going into the underground level of another person. Their genius is not necessarily to become famous, but to be a genius of the heart, a counselor, therapist, community leader, or a teacher who truly touches the ones they teach. The question, what both rules me and makes me joyful, is especially important. Here, Nietzsche touches a hard truth. Your genius may be tied to obsessions and passions that make other people label you weird. Some are so consumed by ideas they forget to eat or sleep. Some are driven to move, to travel, to try things, to the point no one can hold them back. If you only pick safe interests that please everyone, you will never touch this part of your genius. If you had to choose one single moment in your life when you felt the most like yourself, when would it be? Share it with us. That might be the first step in recognizing the flame inside you and finally stopping yourself from ignoring it. Modern science talks about this in a different language. Psychoanalysts talk about libido, the life drive. Neuroscientists talk about the dopamine system. Put simply, some activities make your brain light up in a very particular way, giving you the feeling of being both tired and exhilarated, drained yet full of energy. That's a sign your life energy is flowing in the right direction. In contrast, some things give you money and status, but leave only emptiness afterward, a kind of fatigue like being sucked dry. Live too long in those, and your inner genius will wither. Nietzsche doesn't care what title you have or how fancy your job sounds. He only asks, which direction of living charges you up? You can be a barista obsessed with extracting the perfect espresso shot, a game designer spending hours nudging each pixel, or a nurse who feels the meaning of being beside a patient in their final hours deeply. The crowd will always divide these into ordinary jobs and prestigious careers. But to Nietzsche, the only question is, does your will to live get released there? Do you become more alive, deeper, sharper each time you do that work? Be yourself, in Nietzsche's mouth, is not a slogan. It's a brutal command. Build your own bridge and bear all the consequences of crossing it. You have to accept the cost of living true to your potential. The price of not living by others' opinions is that you may be criticized, misunderstood, or looked down on. Nietzsche doesn't sugarcoat this, but he's also clear. The price of living by others' opinions is an entire life wasting your genius, a life that passes by without ever truly beginning. Number 2, dare to look into the dark. However, to know who you are, it's not enough to gaze at the bright sky of your dreams. You also have to walk down into the basement where you store everything ugly, dark, and shameful. Genius doesn't just live in shiny ideas in your head. It lives in your ability to touch that deep, dark part you always avoid. Nietzsche chooses Dionysus as the symbol for that part. Wine, frenzy, instinct, desire, chaos, raw emotions not yet polished. Opposite to the neat, planned, spotless life that society worships, Dionysus is where everything out of control rises to the surface. But it's exactly in that state of losing control that you see what you truly want, truly fear, truly crave. Many people fear their inner darkness like a monster. They try to show only the cute, tidy, moral version of themselves. They think, if I erase these bad thoughts, I'll become a better person. But modern psychology says the opposite. Whatever you cram down into the unconscious will control you more from behind the scenes. You don't see it, but it moves your hands, your words, even the decisions that seem reasonable. The more someone tries to appear kind, always thinking of others, the more frightening their outburst of anger will be, because they've stayed too long in an artificial role, and when the true instinct rises, it has to shatter every mask. Nietzsche doesn't want you to become nice. He wants you to become whole, to know everything you carry, including the beautiful and the disgusting. The question is, how do you go down there without being swallowed? This is where many people get it wrong. Daring to look into the dark doesn't mean throwing yourself into every impulsive desire, destroying all principles, and calling it freedom. Nietzsche doesn't encourage you to live like an addict to intensity. He wants you to become aware of the darkness, to name it. So instead of being dragged around unconsciously, you can transform it into strength. The difference between a creative genius and a self-destructive wreck often lies right here. Both have strange, powerful urges, but one learns to analyze, transform, and discipline them. The other either represses them until they become illness, or surrenders and lets them drive the whole life. A simple but incredibly powerful tool in the spirit of both Nietzsche and psychoanalysis is free association. That means you create a private space for yourself, a blank page or a notes app, and start writing everything that comes up in your mind without editing, polishing, or justifying. Write down the things that would embarrass you if read aloud. Petty jealousies, inappropriate desires, cruel thoughts like, I hope they fail, ridiculous fears you usually mock in others. The goal here is not to become a good person, but to become an honest one. You can call it daily journaling, but not the cute kind. Today I tried my best, tomorrow I will be better. The kind of journal Nietzsche wants you to face is, today I was jealous of my friend's promotion, even though I smiled and congratulated them. I felt a sting seeing my ex happy with someone else. When you dare to write sentences like that and then read them back, you'll go through another kind of Dionysian intoxication, dizzy from the truth, yet a little relieved, as if you'd opened a ventilation window in a secret cellar. Neuroscience gives us another language for this. When you write down and label an emotion, activity in the amygdala, the fear/threat center, decreases, and activity in the prefrontal cortex, reason, regulation, increases. In simple terms, the more honest you are with your darkness, the less power it has to slam the emergency button from behind your back. Genius doesn't sprout from pretending. It only grows on real ground, even if that ground is full of trash and mud. Imagine you're a musician always praised as gentle, soft, so you only dare to write safe, easy-listening ballads. But deep down, a part of you is furious, lustful, wanting to smash, to scream, to go insane. If you keep muzzling that part, your music will always be pleasant and forgettable. If one day you dare to write a raw, dark song that even you find frightening, that may be the moment your true genius appears. Nietzsche once wrote in Ecce Homo, I am no man, I am dynamite. He wasn't being dramatic. He turned his psychological fragments, pains, and extreme loneliness into a kind of spiritual explosive. That is the difference between a life devoured by darkness and a life that uses darkness as fuel. Number 3. Breaking free from herd morality. The next step he leaves you is to recognize another, more subtle darkness. It lies outside you, in the crowd standards that Nietzsche calls herd morality. Nietzsche makes a chilling observation. What we call universal truth, the common values of humanity, is often nothing more than the will of those in power imposed on the weaker across generations, to the point where no one even remembers where it began. It becomes like a story told and retold until it turns into an obvious fact, and anyone who questions it is immediately seen as insane. He once wrote in The Gay Science, "Morality is the herd instinct in the individual. Herd morality is very clever. It doesn't force you with a whip, but with the craving to belong. It gives you a sense of safety. As long as you are like everyone else, think like everyone else, live like everyone else, you won't be separated from the herd. In exchange, it takes away the most dangerous thing you have, individuality and creativity." Nietzsche looked at modern society and saw it full of well-behaved people who are hollow. They take no risks, yet they also don't dare do anything truly different. They live like sheep, proud that they are not wolves, but never ask, "Why am I not allowed to become anything other than a sheep?" This mechanism is vividly illustrated by psychological science through classic experiments. When you place a person in a group where everyone deliberately gives the wrong answer, most people will awkwardly override their own intuition and answer with the majority simply to avoid being different. Herd morality works the same way. It rewards those who are predictable, acceptable, and well-mannered, and it punishes those who dare to say, "I don't think so." You won't be thrown in prison for being different, but you will be pushed to the margins, gossiped about, treated as a problem. The inner genius Nietzsche speaks of is precisely the part of you that dares to pay that price. Nietzsche also points to a deeper layer. People who have buried their own dreams are often the ones who attack most fiercely anyone who still dares to dream. Sometimes they don't hate you for being different. They hate you because you are the version of them that would exist if I hadn't given up back then. Your existence becomes a living mirror that reminds them of their own surrender. Elena, a girl who loves science, grew up in a Christian environment where girls are taught from childhood that the highest goal is to get married, have children, and take care of the home. When she said she wanted to study physics, the whole family fell silent and criticized her. "Are you delusional? Don't you know those fields are only for boys?" When she submitted her application to study abroad, the entire extended family used every moral argument they could. "That's unfilial. A highly educated girl won't be able to get married." This is exactly how herd morality works. It turns personal aspiration into guilt, then uses that guilt to keep you in place. And what about you? What line from your family or society has ever made you shrink, made you doubt your own dream? Write that line exactly as it was in the comments. You don't need to analyze it or justify anything. Simply placing it out in the open is already a way to weaken the power it has been holding inside you all this time. For Nietzsche, real guilt is not failing to live up to society's expectations, but failing to live up to your own potential. Herd morality looks at short-term consequences. The morality of genius looks at long-term consequences. A mind that could have contributed to human knowledge ends up locked in a kitchen. Which one is truly more wrong? Breaking free from herd morality doesn't mean tossing out all standards, living selfishly, and ignoring everything. Nietzsche doesn't encourage you to become immoral. He tells you to distinguish between genuine morality and morality used for control. Genuine morality enriches life, makes it deeper and more truthful. Herd morality narrows you, cuts off your passion. You don't need to become a villain. You only need to dare not to be worn down. But to do that, you need something Nietzsche emphasizes strongly: the ability to endure solitude. Herd morality isn't broken by a few clever rebuttals online. It only truly loosens when you can withstand those stretches of time when no one understands you. If you can endure sleepless nights, dinners full of uncomfortable questions, moments of being looked down on, just to protect a way of living you know is right for you, then those frictions become the fuel that makes your flame grow. That is the cost, and also the reward, for anyone who wants to step out of the crowd and live a life that does not betray the genius within. If you're still here listening to this point, it means there's already a part of you that refuses to live like the herd. Don't stop at recognition. Stay until the end of the video to see what Nietzsche reveals about how to live true to your genius. And if what you've just heard has touched you in a way you can't quite name, press like and subscribe as a small way of saying, I choose to stay awake. Number 4. Genius is not innate. Escaping the cage of herd morality is only unlocking the door. Once you step outside, you'll find another cage, even more subtle, waiting for you. The belief that only the chosen can become geniuses. This belief will cross your name off the list before the game even truly begins. Our whole culture is addicted to fairy tales about genius. A 3-year-old playing piano like a prodigy, an artist who can draw flawlessly from childhood, a 20-year-old entrepreneur who becomes a millionaire. We like these stories because they give us a very dangerous feeling: relief. Relief because we can say, they did it because they're special. I'm not special, so I don't have that ability. If you believe genius is magic, good genes, or the luck of being born in the right place, then all you have to do is glance at your own starting point, and you can easily exhale. Well, I don't have those things. Trying is pointless. And just like that, you pardon yourself from serious effort. You no longer have to face the truth that you are lazy, afraid, and undisciplined. It all gets condensed into one sentence: I'm not talented. Nietzsche sees in that not truth, but cowardice, romanticized. More dangerously, this false belief about genius distorts your entire inner world. Society teaches you that genius exists only in a few noble fields: philosophy, mathematics, classical music, high art, and top-tier science. If you're passionate about something stranger, building models, storytelling, gaming, studying insects, gardening, cooking, you'll easily diminish yourself. What's that worth? That's not genius. It's just a little hobby. You imagine genius as a luxurious room, while yours is only a small lamp in the corner of the kitchen, and so you neglect that lamp until it slowly goes out. Here, Nietzsche's definition of genius is not someone with extraordinary ability from the start, but someone who can focus their will over the long term on what makes them more alive. You may not be better than anyone when you begin, but you are pulled toward a direction so strongly that you can spend hours on it without tiring. Genius, in this sense, is the result of persistent will, not a lottery prize. Even figures often mythologized as born that way, like Mozart, do not escape this law. People like to say, by 3 or 4 he could already play, by 5 he was composing, as if an angel of music had entered him. But few people know the truth behind it. a childhood compressed into music, an ambitious musician father who made him practice from morning till night, took him across Europe to perform, and constantly immersed him in an intensity of musical environment most children never experience. Mozart may have had a neurological structure favorable to music, but without thousands of hours at the keyboard, without an entire childhood saturated with composition and performance, the Mozart genius we worship today simply would not have appeared in that form. What we call a prodigy is often the intersection of an inborn tendency and a will, both the persons and their surrounding environment poured into one direction for a very long time. And Nietzsche wants you to stare directly at that point. Without will, without focus, innate talent is only a seed lying still, never growing into a tree. Nietzsche doesn't force you to become a great person. He only says, if something makes you burn, makes your heart beat faster, mixes fear with excitement, then it deserves to be treated as a candidate for genius, no matter how strange it looks. You may be fascinated by the history of nameless objects, obsessed with systems in games, driven to repair what others throw away, captivated by the psychology of film characters. These are all sparks. The question is not whether it is noble in society's eyes, but whether you respect it enough to pour your will into it, day after day. To live in this spirit means dropping the habit of looking up at the sky for signs of genius and starting to look down at your own hands. What have I done today, however small, to dig deeper into what makes me more alive? It could be 10 pages you read, a draft you wrote, a piece of code you tested, a song you practiced, or an idea you sketched. No one calls you a genius for those moments. But if that chain of moments continues year after year, one day people will say, wow, you're naturally talented. And if you live in Nietzsche's spirit, you'll smile, no, this is the result of persistent perseverance. Number 5. Discipline through small things. And it is precisely here that Nietzsche pulls genius down from the altar and into the workshop, showing you that behind every halo there remains only one very ordinary image. A craftsman sitting there, repeating small tasks again and again. Genius, in the end, is the product of a serious craftsman, not a series of dazzling bursts of inspiration. And if you can't stand the image of yourself as a craftsman, day after day, grinding away at tiny details until it becomes boring, then chances are you don't truly want genius. You only want the romance of it. Nietzsche watched those he called great individuals and noticed one common trait. They possess a kind of craftsman's seriousness. They don't sit around dreaming of a masterpiece. They learn to create small, flawless parts first, repeating them until even they grow sick of it, and then they push through that very disgust. A musician, before producing a lifetime symphony, has to play tedious scales over and over. A writer, before producing a book that shakes readers, has accepted writing hundreds of terrible passages that no one will ever know. A philosopher, before writing a sentence that awakens others, has had to read, take notes, and think until their head aches over details outsiders never see. The problem is that we only ever see the work, never the process. We look at a painting and think, they must be naturally gifted. Pick up a brush, and it just comes out like that. We hear a piece of music and think, they must have been born with a superhuman ear. We accidentally scroll past someone speaking sharply on a topic and conclude, they were born with a great mind. How could I ever match that? Every time we use the word gifted so casually, we're doing something very convenient for our ego, erasing all the craft behind it, so we don't have to face the question, if I put in as many years as they did, what would I become? Nietzsche despised that kind of romanticizing because it keeps us on the outside. It turns genius into something to admire and worship rather than an invitation to participate. He drags genius into the workshop. Look, these are craftsmen too. The difference is they persist and you run away. People talk about micro-habits and discover this. The brain doesn't care much about your grand declarations. It cares about what you do every day. 5 minutes of practicing an instrument daily can reshape the brain more than one 3-hour burst of inspiration, followed by quitting. Half a page of writing each morning for a year is stronger than sitting down to write the book of your life and then doing nothing. Nietzsche, in his own way, understood this very early. The great craftsman is the one who learns to find pleasure in repeating small movements, not the one who only gets intoxicated by dramatic peaks. Try looking at yourself. How many times have you started something with great momentum? Buying all the tools, making a beautiful plan, imagining a glorious future. Then, when you touched the very first small task, basic drills, boring pages, tiny revisions, you got tired, you felt, this isn't for me. If you've done that before, try sharing one time you quit halfway in the comments. Maybe looking back at your own story is the first step toward returning to it more seriously. This isn't because you lack ability, it's because you haven't learned the art of savoring the small. You only get excited by the finished picture in your head. You don't know how to love the crooked line you managed to correct today. So how exactly does the serious craftsman Nietzsche aim to operate? They choose one specific skill tied to what they want to do and decide, I will do it consistently. Each time, they don't do it just to check a box. They find one precise place to fix, to polish, to make it slightly better than yesterday. They accept criticism. This is where many people quit. Once you start putting your rough work out into the world, you'll get painful hits. It's average, not very distinctive. Anyone could do that. The serious craftsman is the one who knows how to use that hurt as data. Nietzsche would say, your ego must be strong enough not to be destroyed by others' eyes, yet humble enough to keep learning from them. If you pay attention, people who are truly good at something often have a strange kind of joy. They feel thrilled when they solve a small bug in code, adjust a sentence so it sounds less fake, or find a historical detail that seems meaningless but suddenly connects to a larger picture. They know how to savor the micro. Nietzsche would say, that's the sign of a genius taking shape, someone who can sip the subtle pleasure of making one small part better, without needing to live in constant climax. Nietzsche doesn't believe in genius as a beautiful gust of wind. He believes in genius as a structure of living. That structure has 3 parts: an inner genius that has been recognized, a will that accepts the cost, and a craftsman's discipline. If you pull it all into one Nietzschean question for yourself, in what you suspect is your genius, how far have you actually lived like a craftsman? Not how passionately you've talked about it, but how many quiet days of repetition you've accepted for it. If the answer is very few, it's not that you lack genius. You simply lack the discipline that knows how to enjoy each small step on the road to becoming yourself. And this is exactly the sign of change for you. Number 6, gratitude and cleanliness. When you already have fire, direction, and the discipline of a craftsman, Nietzsche warns you, How will you use that strength so you don't turn yourself into a monster? Genius, if it isn't held within a certain frame, can easily slide from light into distortion. He says it plainly. A person with genius, but without gratitude and without cleanliness, becomes something unpleasant, self-destructive, and harmful to anyone who comes close. But cleanliness here is not church morality. Cleanliness in Nietzsche's spirit is a kind of transparency of character. You don't sell yourself for money. You don't bend the truth for fame. You don't use your intelligence to manipulate the weak. You can be sharp, difficult, even controversial, but there is a line you do not cross. You do not stain your own inner strength. And gratitude is not bowing to everything, saying yes to life. For Nietzsche, gratitude is how you avoid being blinded by the power you gain. It is what keeps you humble on the inside as you become sharper on the outside. Look around. You'll see many people with talent and ambition who climb to a certain level of influence and then begin to fall. They grow arrogant, look down on others, turn every relationship into a tool, and use any means to protect the position they've just won. Genius that isn't held by gratitude and cleanliness soon becomes a kind of monster, calculating, competitive. Nietzsche understood this clearly because he could see through a history full of great men who destroyed not only others, but themselves. Cleanliness, for Nietzsche, begins with a blunt question: am I betraying what I've built? A researcher may enter the field for love of knowledge, wanting to understand the world to the bone. But after a few years, faced with a large grant attached to the condition of adjusting results to fit the agenda, they began to weigh it. If they bend the truth, they gain money, status, and position. But in that very moment, the part that once flared up from love of truth is stained. Cleanliness means being willing to take a short-term loss so you don't weaken your long-term strength. It's the programmer who refuses to plant malware in a product just because the boss says, "We need more customer data." It's the creator who refuses an ad deal for something they themselves consider trash, even though it would be quick money. It's the leader willing to lose a big contract if the conditions go directly against the values they're building. These people may be called bad at seizing opportunities, but in Nietzsche's sense, they are protecting the structure of their long-term power. Gratitude, meanwhile, is what keeps your ego from swelling until it explodes. When you become truly good, the world responds: praise, admiration, opportunities, money, attention. The danger is that it can make you believe you are the center of the universe. From "I worked very hard," you slide into "I'm more special than others," then into "I have the right to treat people like props." That's when genius starts to smell like the disease Nietzsche hated most: hollow arrogance. Gratitude in this context is a reminder to yourself: yes, I have talent, but I didn't simply appear here. You have a body that can withstand pressure, a brain that isn't ill, tools others created, teachers, friends, and collaborators who helped you through your earliest steps. Even your will, in some part, was forged by circumstance. See that clearly enough, and it becomes hard to stand on a stage and treat everyone below as lesser. So when we speak of inner genius throughout this video, it isn't an invitation for you to become dangerous in the sense of manipulation. Nietzsche doesn't teach you to be an angel. He teaches you to be human, strong enough to live true to your genius, yet lucid enough not to turn that strength into something dirty. And in the end, the two things that keep you on that thin line are surprisingly simple: gratitude and cleanliness. Number 7. If this life repeated forever, would you dare to live it this way? Nietzsche has one final test, more ruthless than the rest, meant to measure whether your entire life, with all its choices, suffering and happiness, is worthy of being repeated. He calls it the idea of eternal recurrence. Imagine this: a demon appears and speaks to you, not as a joke, but as a sentence. The life you're living now, every tiny detail, every exhausted morning, every argument, every moment of cowardice, every second of joy, will return the same, an infinite number of times. Everything you are choosing today, you will have to choose again, exactly as it is, forever. After hearing that, what is your first reaction inside? Do you want to scream never or yes? By asking this, Nietzsche wants to cut off every illusion of postponement. You no longer have room to say, "For now I'll live against what I truly want. Later I'll redo it." In the vision of eternal recurrence, there is no harmless "for now." Every moment you choose to betray yourself is carved into eternity, like a template to be printed endlessly. Every action, right or wrong, leaves consequences an infinite number of times. The point isn't to frighten you, but to illuminate. Is my life worth signing my name to one more time? If the thought of repeating your current life in its exact form fills you with dread, that is a very clear report. Somewhere, you are living as if you have endless chances, so you easily sell off your time, your talent, your truth. But if there are at least a few moments that, when you imagine them repeating, make you feel, yes, if the universe forces me to live this exact segment again, I accept, then that is the sign. Here, you have lived closer to your genius, cleaner, more grateful, more real. So each time you're about to nod along with something that goes against you just because it's convenient, each time you're about to let a chance to live from your inner strength slip away because you're afraid, you can pause for 1 second and ask, do I want this scene to be printed forever? If the answer is no, that is when your inner genius is pulling your hand, very softly yet unmistakably, toward another way of living. Less pretending, more creativity, and more responsibility for every second you exist. And perhaps, in the deepest sense, this is what Nietzsche means by genius. Not becoming someone great in the eyes of the world, but daring to live a life that, even if it had to repeat forever, you could still say, all right, at least it truly was my life. By now, perhaps the most frightening thing is no longer the question, can I become a genius? But the feeling that from this point on, you can no longer pretend you don't know. You've seen sparks inside yourself, obsessions, red-hot moments you once dismissed as small things. And you've also seen quite clearly the places where you keep shrinking yourself to fit other people's eyes. Nietzsche doesn't step forward to hold your hand. He simply tears the veil away. The rest is the moment you must answer a deeply private question for yourself. Starting tomorrow, will I live as before, or will I live out all the capacity I actually have?